Hello, very good evening. Welcome to the programme. Not quite Air Force One, is it? But I think you'll agree the company is a lot more agreeable. And who's to say that budget airlines can't fly high with good management? Which brings us to tonight's guest, and a very warm welcome back to one of the best, Chris Wilder, manager of Sheffield United. Good to see you again, Chris.
Thanks, Al.
Summer in well?
Yeah, good, enjoyed it, yeah. As I said, got a bit of sun, played a bit of golf, watched a bit of cricket, so tick my boxes.
Yeah, and sweated and lost a bit of weight.
No, I don't think so. I think you're talking about somebody else. It's this possibly. Black top. I thought I needed to wear a black top tonight just to cover it up.
White is the wrong choice. You'll know, well, we ought to open one or two of the windows. You see, we've put a couple of new windows in since you were here before. Your furniture, you're moving a little bit around this summer. We'll come to that later because that's the subject that everybody's screaming at me to bring up. But let's talk World Cup first of all, because my summer's been dominated by that. I don't know whether a football manager, you're busy all the way through the year, but you get a World Cup like this. You can't ignore football, possibly at a time when you might otherwise want to. Did you enjoy the tournament?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I thought it was some cracking games, and especially going into the latter end of the competition, and a couple of shocks, and I think deserved winners. Even though I think that game could have gone either way if the penalty decision which I believe was an incorrect one. I thought Croatia were fantastic and got the maximum out of their players. So good to watch them, the final, and generally it was a really good competition.
What we saw with England was a country's football team reconnecting with the public through the manager as a conduit, etc. Some parallels perhaps in the way that you got Sheffield United to reconnect with the Bramall Lane faithful. So do you appreciate the job that Gareth Southgate has been doing?
Yeah, 100%. And he obviously had an insight to the younger players and formulated a plan and stuck to it. And I know Kevin's on the second part of the show, and Kevin Gage will talk about the set piece aspect of England's play. But I think it was important that I think everybody fell out of love with England, especially after the sort of the Iceland debacle, and there was plenty of I'm not going to watch them again, and I'm not bothered. And so I think for everybody's sake and the good of the game and the good of the country that the players and the manager represented the following and basically had a very good tournament. Did you fall out of love with England yourself? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean it is difficult because I've got two hats on, obviously a football hat and the supporters hat, and I want to be excited just as much as my pals are. I want to go down the pub and watch the games and watch them get through to latter end of competitions and quarterfinals and semi-finals. From a football point of view, interesting to see how they went about it as well, and obviously the other countries as well.
The key word was humility. I heard that word used more often during the summer in a World Cup than ever before. Did you find it as big a breath of fresh air hearing that as a lot of us did, associated with very wealthy footballers, that word humility?
I think it's very easy for professional modern footballers to say they're together and they've got a good team spirit and this, that and the other, but they've got to go out and prove it, and I think they did. They stuck together. They worked extremely hard for each other. They did the basics of the game very, very well. They competed, they ran around, and I think the majority of people, whether in football or watching it from a terrace or an armchair, want to see people leaving everything out on the pitch, and they did. They obviously came up a little bit short, but that is the biggest connector. It was the biggest connector for us when we first went into Sheffield United, and from an England point of view, obviously the players and manager have managed to do that.
Other thing, it seemed to me that most teams were offensive in style, looking to attack. Therefore, it was a great tournament for goals, etc. And perhaps not dissimilar, to the way that you try to go about it yourself. Because we've had this perception that international football's boring, like a game of chess, and we prefer to watch, say, Championship football. We actually saw some Championship football at the World Cup, really, didn't we?
Yeah, teams went for it. Yeah, teams went for it. They had a fearless approach, and they wanted to go and win games, which obviously was great to watch as a spectacle. There is there's a lot of quality players, and counter-attacking football is obviously very evident as well. I thought the Belgium goal that they scored was an unbelievable goal in the last minute of the game. So, both sides of the game I thought was excellent. And as I said, enjoyed watching it right the way through.
Coming back round to Sheffield United, you very much have created an identity. You've stamped your style not only on the team but on the championship as well as a division. Is that style here to stay? You're looking to modify it, or is that basically how you're going to set off this season to try and replicate that?
Yeah, we came into the division and we were coming into it, eyes wide open. As I said, there was a lot of talk about the division, how big it was, and how many doings we'd get every 3 or 4 games, and we worked hard. We played to our strengths. We made sure teams worry about us, and that wasn't being disrespectful to the opposition. And I think we attacked the division. Things get talked about in the second part of the season. We're massively into the stats and subjective and objectively look at our game, and the stats added up to us playing just as well in the second part of the season as the first part of the season. So we didn't really change a lot. Teams people talked about us getting sussed out. I certainly didn't think we got sussed out. I just thought that possibly in the second part of the season we didn't have too many enough big moments that changed losses into draws and draws into wins, which obviously we tried to rectify in the summer through the signings that we made. But we thoroughly enjoyed the division. There were some fantastic games. We had 2 great games, obviously, over at Hillsborough and at Bramall Lane. We had 2 great games, versus Leeds. You looked at the fixture list last year, and you're looking at the fixture list now, and no disrespect to the division where we've come from, but this is an absolute different level, and we feel that we've stamped our authority and our mark on it, and now the key is to bridge the gap from where we finished to pushing on into them higher positions.
Right, it's an upbeat day for Sheffield United. You've made a club record signing today, John Egan. We'll talk about him in a minute, but just getting an inevitable question out of the way first. You'd need to be living underground or on Mars not to know that there's a power battle going on at the top of the football club between the 2 owners. There's been a lot of publicity about it. It's heading for a High Court hearing. Let's get it out of the way. Have you any reflections, comments on that in terms of the way that affects you?
No, I mean, it's not an ideal scenario, and I think both owners will recognise that as well. Obviously, I had concerns at the back end of the season because, things that would or have and would have affected me going forward, I needed to settle and sort out, not only from my personal point of view and my family's, but for the good of the football club. The connection that I've got, and that's how I will always be as well. I said it. I walk through the front door and I walk out through the front door. I'm not anybody's boy, and if things needed to be said and we needed to sort things out, let's talk and sort things out. So, that part of it is still ongoing, and I'm sure it will get resolved. But, from my point of view and from the players' point of view, because the majority of those players I brought into the football club, they needed a little bit of direction. I needed a little bit of direction, and thankfully I've got that.
You've got it. So you're satisfied up to that point. You signed your new contract. I think you came to an agreement on essentially what your budget was going to be, and that figure is still the same today as it was then.
There was 3 or 4 things, Al. I spoke to both owners. I spoke about Stephen Bettis coming back. He'd had a year out, went to America, and he was key in our first year, and he acted as that link between me and the owners. From the contract point of view, the contract was offered pre-Christmas, so to get that sorted out, there was no reason for me to leave. Sure. I needed to get those things sorted out, but I was concerned, and and I think I had every right to consider what was happening at the football club, and from my point of view, and obviously from the players' point of view, and thankfully we got it sorted out. What will be at boardroom level, but yet again we're coming to a new season full of excitement, full of optimism that we can go well again, and I'm delighted and proud that I can lead the club. It's a fantastic job. As I said, it's a dream job for me. I love working at the football club every day. I get up, and it's a great experience, and I've had great experiences and moments already, and I'm hungry for more, and I know certainly the players are.
David Brooks obviously was sold this summer, and the big question that I'm sure you've fielded on numerous occasions, and which I can't avoid raising with you again tonight, is we know essentially roughly what the fee was, 12 rising to 15 million pounds. Do you know at this point what, if anything, of that you have to add to your transfer pot?
I haven't got a specific number on it, but you know we're working to improve. We're going positions in terms of what we're trying to do. We're adding quality. We feel the 2 boys that we've added already, the players that we're in for, will make us better than what we were last year. We looked, as I said, at the stats where we need to improve. I personally felt, between both boxes, we were right up there and maybe the top 4 or 5 clubs in the division in terms of how we played, how we moved the ball from one box to the other box. We just felt big moments, big saves needed to be made. Jamal did great for us. We feel Dean takes us to the next level. No pressure on him, but he had an outstanding season last year. I felt he was the best goalkeeper in the AFL, never mind League One. And at the top of the pitch, we were the creator, I think, of the 3rd biggest chances in the division. And even though we scored 58 goals, and the 2 boys at the top of the pitch did ever so well, Leon and Bill. There was obvious games at the end of the season, especially. I come to mind the Brentford game. We're kicking in the last 10 minutes and we can't find a winner. Against Cardiff, who obviously had a fantastic season. We absolutely murdered them at home, and we can't put them to bed. Aston Villa was another game, and I think that epitomised our sort of second part of the season, really. Tita Green, as I call it, box to box. We've played an unbelievably powerful club in the division, off the park. Sam Johnson making save after save. Snodgrass gets it off his left peg. Maybe the defender, made a little bit of a mistake, should have showed him on the outside, and he sticks it in the top corner. And they're walking away. I'm not saying Villa played at the best of their ability. We played right up there, consistently well, and we come away with no points. So, that's sort of where we are. Strikers
are hardest to get. Come on to sort of that subject in a minute, but the big one that you have got today for a club record fee is undisclosed, but I'm sure it's a pretty sizable whack. I think the previous club record was James Beattie. So you're not at liberty to reveal figures, but that was widely reported at the time as £4 million. So you've signed today John Egan, a centre-back from Brentford. Just tell us about him and how you feel about that signing.
Known him for a long time. Seen his progression out of Sunderland as a kid, into Gillingham, made captain within 6 months at Gillingham, moved to Brentford. I've got to say, Brentford's recruitment is fantastic. It is quite interesting if you ever had a chance to look into their recruitment, because I've been told that obviously the owner is a little bit Moneyball characteristics, and they've obviously got contacts around the world. The amount of money that they put into their recruitment is unbelievable. The amount of people, the staff that they put into their recruitment is huge. Their recruitment isn't usually far off. A lot of good players that they pick up and move them on. They're obviously a part-selling club as well. So we've seen his development. We've seen his development at Brentford, going in there with a lot of good players and being captain. Technically, they're an outstanding football team, so he can definitely handle the ball. And from a defensive point of view, I think the way they play as well, he has to defend 1 versus 1 a lot of times, 2 versus 2 a lot of times. Similar to us, Brentford are an offensive side, so we like that. He's a winner, and we wanted to put a leader into the group as well.
Another one.
We feel he's a great age.
Yeah.
He's starting his international career. We feel he'll earn more international caps with us. And, I think as well, we've talked about 2 or 3 centre-halves that have moved in this division and moved out of the division in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. I don't see one better, and there's a lot that have gone for a lot more money than what we paid for. And I always think from our point of view, especially where we've been, the fee is a big one from our point of view. But relatively speaking, when you see the numbers that are spent in the Championship and the way that the market has moved on, we think this is a value for money signing.
Yeah, you can get to figures of 3 times that for players in the Championship now, can't you? Not least strikers. So that's kind of 2 down out of 4 or 5. You've got a goalkeeper. You've signed a big centre half today. David Brooks left, so you're looking for a replacement for him. The one that's linked solidly and consistently with you when the David Brooks replacement is discussed is Ben Woodburn, a young player at Liverpool. I don't know if you can comment on that speculation at all. Or
all I would say, and I've said it before, I've said it to the local media. I think we work really hard in our recruitment. You know, we're not a scattergun approach. We just don't pluck names off other people or out of newspapers or, you know, what other clubs are in for. And obviously from social media and what media is like now, there's so many names get bandied about. So you know how hard Mitch works, how hard Nilly and myself work, looking at players, going out, the likes of John Egan, working our way without shouting from the rooftops what we've got. You know, we are battling it out with extremely wealthy and powerful football clubs. So we have to go about it in our way, whether it's a loan signing or whether it's a permanent signing. So there is an enormous amount of work that's gone into it. We feel we've not got everything right in the transfer window, but I think if you look at a lot of the clubs now, you know, a lot of the clubs that have to move players on, have to sell players because they've spent and they've spent enormous money on wages, they've spent enormous money on transfer fees, and they're breaking teams up. I don't want us to break a team up. I want to grow, I want to build, I want to bring John Egan in. I would have loved to have kept Brooksy, but I think we've talked about that, agents getting involved and heads turned and money involved in the deal for David as well. You know, it massively split opinion. I think his best situation would have been for him to stay at the football club, but you know what agents are like, that, you know, the wider than the wicker arches, aren't they, at times, you know what I mean? So, you know, they're moving players on.
You mentioned clubs that are having to offload. Aston Villa, hence Scott Hogan's been in with you and loads of others, which I'm sure you can't.
They're all breaking teams up.
Yeah,
they're all breaking teams up and laying players off, and then they can't move them out. They can't move these 40 or 45 grand players that have not been successful out. So we work hard to get our money. The academy works hard to produce players. We work hard to develop our players, to develop David Brooks, to develop all the players that have gone from a price that we bought them to a price where their market value is now. Yeah. And you know, we don't want to give them away.
But equally, you haven't got 30 or 40,000 a week to throw at a new signing, have you?
And I think we've talked about it, Al, as well. You know, I've got a fantastic changing room that are on the same page, work extremely hard for themselves, for each other, and for the football club. And I understand that wages will lift, and we have to lift those and be ambitious.
In terms of going for the...
In terms of...
But they have to accept that those players are worth it,
don't they? 100%, but it has to be... It has to move up in a way together, and it can't be something there and something there. A huge jump. I personally don't think that works.
I won't ask you anymore, but I think you've answered my question on Scott Hogan there without answering it personally. There is one though that came up today, and I looked at it and I thought, do you know what a fantastic signing that would be? And that was Martin Waghorn of Ipswich, who scored goals throughout his career. And you were linked with him by one paper today. It was even said that you'd made a bid for it.
Well, listen, as I said, I think, you know, another one that I think has got a price tag of £8 to £10 million on him. So that rules us out straight away. You know, that rules us out. And, you know, any of those numbers. And I think from my background as well, you know, I've got to make sure that I make right decisions, that we don't overpay for players. And then, as I said, we're suffering in 2 or 3 years' time that we're breaking teams up. We're breaking teams up because we have to. Ambitious, wanting to spend money, we feel we have done. What is a player's worth? We have to look at the market, and we have to basically look at our instincts and our knowledge and experience of players, what we feel they're worth. And you know, I've got to say, you know, 8 to 10 million for Martin is a huge number, as is, you know, the numbers that are bandied about for the likes of players that they've already mentioned.
Yeah. Okay, still to discuss David McGoldrick, Ched Evans, clarification on that, the keeper situation generally, but lots more to discuss because Chris's old mate Kevin Gage, our old mate Kevin Gage, who's almost a fixture in this studio, is waiting to come on to join Chris in part 2. Hope you can, well, sit back, have a cup of tea, and we'll have something strong. We'll see you in 5. Bye.